My video for March the 11th, 2020 is video number 3392. The title is Friends of the World Gathering. Every year, my friends at the Yoga Mission host this gathering where various music groups and others are invited to present their programs. There are a number of groups represented that take part in the celebration of unity. Among those who participate are people I have known for years, decades in some cases. For me, they are all part of the metaphysical community. This year was no exception. I had the chance to chat with people I have not seen in a while. Some of those brief conversations touched on the political issues I have talked about in my videos. Nearly all of them are anti-Trump, pro-Democrat, and one man invited me to meet with him to talk in more detail on why Trump is bad for America and the world. I agree that he is divisive, but I disagree that the wall on the US-Mexico border is a bad thing. As is happening all over the world, people are being displaced from their homelands and being moved into other countries where the cultures are not at all similar. Of course, this creates inevitable problems. Will we ever be able to come together for peace and learn to love one another? I was actually going to make this video yesterday, but when I saw the article that I made the previous video about, I said, no, I'm going to put it off a day, which is exactly what I have done. And I've been friends with these people for literally for decades, for at least 2 to 3 decades. And until just recently, I attended the gathering at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings at the yoga. It's the Yoga Shakti mission, and it was founded by a lady from India, and it is primarily Hindu in nature, but they have Buddhists and people from various religions come and present things. So it's not centered on one religion claiming to be the only right one. And I have always liked that because it's about building bridges to one another and exposing the barriers. And one man would say, but Ron, you're wanting a barrier between Mexico and the United States to stop those poor people from coming into the United States. Yes, I am, because they don't have jobs, they don't assimilate into the culture, and a lot of crime is the result. But of course, crime and pitting people against each other is part of the agenda of the one world government movement that I think is so despotic and terrible for humanity. Again, I want people to learn to love each other, to communicate with each other in peaceful ways. But this one gentleman who at one point invited me to speak at his church. When I say his church, I don't mean he owns the church. It's just one of the churches that he attended. I went, and they were so thrilled with my message of unity that they invited me back to speak 2 months later again as a guest speaker. And this time I pushed some buttons that they didn't like, and the man was told, don't ever invite him back here again. Because I am the paradox man. I want people to think outside the boxes that we're trained to think in. And that's why I've belonged to groups that from my perspective try to build bridges. But inevitably what happens is you get 1 or 2 people that are very, very politically oriented and try to push their particular candidate, or they shut down any conversation about political subjects, even when it's not a partisan thing of pitting one group against another, but rather a general discussion on the political environs that are created on planet Earth that divide us from each other and keep us from even having reasonable conversations. Now, I'm probably not going to take up the invitation uh, of this man who wanted to further talk about it, because we talked actually 2 or 3 times during the course of the 3 hours that I was there. It was a 4 hour thing, but I left after 3 hours because, quite frankly, that's my nap time, and I was tired. But in any case, uh, there's very little point in discussing things with people if they're going to keep trying to convince you that you're wrong. And again, I am not pro Trump. I am not. I agree with what he's doing with the wall, but I disagree uh, with many of his policies, as I've said in lots of my videos. He is pro-Israel. I am pro-peace, and Israel and the United States are the most warlike nations on earth. And everything in war is generated by lies. There, we knew, for example, Pearl Harbor. We knew that the Japanese were going to bomb Pearl Harbor 2 days or 3 days before it happened. And all we did was move our most expensive ships out of there and let them bomb the older ones that didn't matter because there was new technology being developed. Anyway, folks, everything on this planet is a smokescreen to divert attention away from the things that are actually important. I do not think that politics is something that will ever unify us, but neither is it something that we have to avoid. If only we could come together and be reasonable with each other. But it's always trying to prove one party right and the other party wrong, which is why, I mean, people say, you're pro-Trump, Ron. No, I'm not. I'm not pro-Trump, but I am not in favor of any of the Democratic candidates, except for what was there was one that's sort of metaphysical that I like, but she dropped out way long time ago. I even forgot her name. Isn't that awful? But anyway, uh, we need somehow to find a way to get beyond the bickering back and forth and the headbutting and get to a place where we can have honest conversation and examine some of the things that some of us have learned are simply not true. They're lies. And all of the religions have been infiltrated with lies that divide us instead of bringing us together. Again, that's why I like the yoga mission, because it has diversity. But like other groups that I've been involved in, they don't want political discussion. Yet one of the speakers that they have there frequently was pro Elizabeth Warren and would always put in a plug for Elizabeth Warren when she was running for president because his last name happens to be Warren. So, you know, it's crazy, folks. It's really crazy. What's it going to take to bring the world to a place where we can actually create peace on earth? Will that happen? I don't know. Thanks for listening, and namaste.